Hello and welcome to the International Powered Access Federation webinar, Reducing Accidents Through Intelligence. My name is Peter Douglas and I am CEO of IPAF. Firstly, before we get started, I just wanted to pass some information to you guys. There are over 350 people registered for this webinar, which is fantastic, but amazingly from over 45 countries worldwide. So it makes this a truly worldwide event. Thank you very much for your participation. And I would also like to thank our sponsors for this series of webinars, and they are Skyjack, Hinoa, MCS, Jeshlift and Green Power Design Astrid Company Limited. Thank you very much to you guys. Without your help and support, we couldn't run such events. This webinar has two purposes really, and we're excited to be launching today our new accident reporting portal. And I suppose the second objective of today is to get as many of our members reporting accidents and helping with our initiative to reduce accidents and save lives in this wonderful industry that we all work in. So the agenda for today, I will run through the history of our IPAF's accident reporting initiative, just to tell you how it all began and how we got to where we are today and some of the things that we use the data that we collect for. I'll then hand over to Brian Parker, who will go into the detail and analyse the data. And Richard Whiting, our UK market manager, will give you an overview of the new portal, and there'll be a short demonstration video for the portal. We'll then have a short Q&A session and a summary and wrap up by myself. So how did it all begin? Back in 2010, before it was pre the UK Country Council's existence, we had a UK high-risk committee, which I was a member of. It was chaired by a guy called Austin Baker from AFI, and other members of that group, some of you will be familiar with Gordon Lester from Facelift, Keith Smith from Loxam, and a few others. It was an initiative brought out through discussions, and maybe if we can collect some accident data, we can maybe analyse it and produce some initiatives that IPAF can work on to help improve safety, predominantly in the UK at that point. And we continued that trial. It was a bit hit and miss. Some people forgot to do it, forgot to input their data each month. We were running this on a spreadsheet. It was before there was a portal in existence, but we thought it was a good idea and a great use of IPAF membership. In 2011, when Chris Wraith had joined IPAF and moved across from a rental company, and we thought we'd do a 4-month trial and use that data to provide recommendations to IPAF for initiatives going forward. That proved a valuable set of data. We analysed it and came up with some trends on where we saw the accidents happening. And in March 2012, I presented that to the IPAF Council. At that point, I asked the IPAF Council if they would consider mandating accident reporting for all members. That sadly was rejected at that point. I presented on that same day on the very subject. I shared a lot of accident information from my then company, Nationwide Platforms, at the IPAF Summit in Rome, and encouraged all IPAF members worldwide to start reporting accidents. I didn't give up at that point. Between April and September in 2012, Chris Wraith had convinced IPAF to invest in the accident portal, and the portal was built and launched during 2012. We also formed the UK Country Council that year, and that was quite an important event, I suppose, from this initiative's perspective. In September 2012, the first inaugural meeting of the UK Council was held, and one of the first things on the agenda was accident reporting, and it was mandated 24 votes to nil in favour of mandating accident reporting. So from January 2013, if you're an IPAF UK rental member, you must now report all of your accidents. So over the years, we've collected Lots and lots of data, and it's not just been our UK members. More and more international members have contributed to helping IPAF analyse that data and come up with safety programmes and lots of different things. So thank you all. If you are reporting, if you're not, please consider doing so. Why is the data important that we collect? You know, IPAF's mission is to promote the safe and effective use of powered access worldwide. How can we do that? How can we make the industry safer if we don't know when it goes wrong? We need this information to look for trends, to look for hotspots, to look for issues, to improve everything that we do. The more data that we collect, the more that we can collectively improve safety in this industry. So what do we do with the data? What have IPAF been doing with the data? We use this data to improve training programmes. Over the last 8 years, whilst we've been collecting the data, we've made enhancements to the MUPE operator training programme, the MUPEs for managers and MUPEs for supervisors training programmes, and the IPAF load and unload course. You'll notice there I put site survey course. When we look at the cause of a lot of incidents, it's incorrect selection of machines. And so I'm pleased to announce today that we're also looking at launching a site survey course that's in our programme to be developed during the next 12 months. We also use the data to launch various safety campaigns over the years. There's just 4 safety campaigns that we've launched over the last 4 or 5 years on the screen now. 2016, safe delivery of MUPEs. We noticed from the data pretty early on that delivery drivers in our industry were particularly at risk. You know, there was a lot of incidents and accidents, and when a machine comes off the side of a truck, there tends to be injuries as well as significant damage to machines. So we launched our Safe Delivery of MUPEs campaign in 2016, our Back to Basics campaign in 2017, our Plan Ahead campaign in 2018, and our Street Smart campaign in 2019. Hopefully you're all familiar with our Andy Access posters, simple messages, giving simple messages to hopefully reduce accidents, make operators think when they're on the job sites operating. We've launched 22 posters to date in 10 different languages, and they're free to download at www.ipaf.org/Andy Access. A lot of the Andy Access posters come with an accompanying Toolbox talk. We've published 7 Toolbox talks so far, but we have lots in the pipeline, 13 more in the pipeline in 8 of our core languages. So just to summarise some of the statistics from our accident reporting initiative so far, almost 4,000 incidents have been logged on the system since it's been launched, which is fantastic. And again, I thank the people that have been responsible for that. But it's not enough. We need more. Companies from 27 countries have contributed. So although it started as a UK initiative, it's definitely a worldwide initiative now, but we need more. In the last 12 months, our Andy Access posters have been downloaded over 12,000 times. 12,000 times in just a year. So again, a really successful campaign on the back of collecting some of this data, and a lot of our members obviously appreciate that. Over 12,000 downloads just in the last 12 months. As I've already said, 22 Andy Access posters produced, with a further 14 in the pipeline. All the posters and Toolbox talks are available in most of our core languages, and 7 Toolbox talks launched, with a further 13 in the pipeline. So lots of activity. Now, my final slide before I hand over, and this isn't scientific, but I thought in preparation for this webinar I would do a poll. And the poll was simply yes or no. Do you believe a condition of IPAF membership worldwide should be mandatory reporting of all known MUPE accidents? I had 154 votes. Thank you for those that contributed to that. And as you can see from the results on the screen there, 92% overwhelmingly were in favour of doing that. Now, it's not my job to do that. I want people to volunteer and to report accidents because it's the right thing to do. But it's certainly something, if you're a member of or you chair a country or regional council, it's certainly something you should probably have on the agenda of your next meeting. That's it from me for now. I'm delighted now to hand over to Brian Parker, who has been an integral part of the accident work group, analysing the anonymised and sanitised data to come up with the initiatives, but also has been heavily involved with IPAF for many, many years in his role as Business Development Manager for AFI. But also I'm delighted to announce that within the next month, Brian will be joining IPAF as our new Head of Safety and Technical. So over to you, Brian. Thank you.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for that kind introduction, Peter. As I said, my name is Brian Parker, and to give you an insight into my part in the Accident Working Group, I've been a UK Country Council member for many years, and along with other Accident Working Group members, worked on the very project that Peter's discussed there since 2012, but probably more indirect, direct in the last 18 months, where we worked on the recent report. Now, my subjects I'm going to cover today, I'm going to look at a summary of the worldwide report quickly, an in-depth look at rental company findings, so look at some data, some analysis, and some of the trends that's there, and certainly a focus on some of the key findings that we found. I will have an overview of the incident dashboard and certainly a look at the UK member report that can give you some idea of what you in your countries and your regions will be able to see once you start reporting, and of course, very importantly, how your data will be used for the future. Now, when we were preparing this webinar and doing the various polls and such, some of the questions that were asked were in terms of how many had actually read the worldwide report, and I was quite pleased to see that around 50% of you had actually read the worldwide report. So firstly, thank you for downloading it and reading it. Hopefully you read it. It did take some doing to get there, and it certainly wasn't just myself, it was the Accident Working Group that put a lot of time and effort into that. But of course, for those of you who haven't read it yet, I would urge you to download it from the IPAF website. It's certainly a great insight into what incidents and issues affect our fantastic industry. What I would say, from the bulk of the data that we used in that report, was predominantly from rental companies which were based in the UK. And that report was essentially a culmination of 4 years worth of collecting data, sitting with meetings, working groups, and really understanding on what we want to show, and of course preparing really for what the future is going to hold in terms of any new portal. One thing I must say at this moment in time is that any data that you enter, any incidents, accidents, is 100% secure and it's confidential. All the data is anonymized, so you will never see any sort of manufacturers' names or people like that. And in terms of from this, just think about what this report could be like if we all collectively reported. So, as Peter's mentioned earlier, objectives really of any sort of accident reporting is quite clear. Essentially, it enables IPAF to analyse incidents involved in the preparation, delivery, use and collection of both mobile elevated working platforms and mast climbing work platforms. The data identifies, for example, typical incidents and the most frequent injury types for categories, including, whether it's, when it's elevated, when it's an employee, when it's been loaded, when we're perhaps, performing maintenance. So it gives us some really great insight. And the worldwide report itself was produced from incidents that range from 2016 to 2018. Now, as Peter alluded to earlier, the information already has been used to create safety awareness campaigns, update Toolbox talks, and the access posters, and really help develop and shape some of the guidance and training courses that are available, for yourselves and for training centres to deliver. So the slide you can see was taken out the fatal report, the worldwide report, and it shows fatal incidents. Now, it found that falls from the platform, electrocution, entrapment, machine overturns, and hit by a machine or another vehicle were the 5 most common causes of fatality. So having this information available to us, and this is worldwide fatals, this can help us so much now to address some of these issues and reduce these going forward. You can also see further down there that there are other fatalities that are in different categories but also listed. So, for example, when things have failed, etc. The report also identified, and it's probably no surprise, that incidents are more likely to occur when the machine is in the elevated position. But it also highlighted that the delivery of mutes, the maintenance of machines, whether that's service, repair, or production, also results in high numbers of injury incidents. The data has now also been included pre-2016, and this now shows that since 2012 to 2019, there were actually 285 fatal reports with a total of 300 fatalities. So this identifies essentially that there were 15 incidents where there was more than one person was unfortunately killed in an incident involving a mute. So unfortunately, multiple fatalities from an incident. You can see on the slide, on the graph there, that it is predominantly, unfortunately, the USA and North America, which has had the greatest number of fatalities, nearly 64% of all fatals. However, to put it into context, they also do have the largest amount of mutes in the world. Canada, UK, and Australia are next, with other countries highlighted too, and you can drill down into them and get that information. If we then look at the industries, we then have construction and forestry, or tree care, what we call arboricultural in the UK. They are the next largest number of fatalities. Also service and maintenance and electrical activities, so have also recorded high number of fatalities, so sort of facilities maintenance, that sort of thing. It also highlighted that there are higher rates of incidents reported and fatals occur in public areas and on roads and highways than we initially first thought. And I think at the time we all thought it was predominantly going to be, construction based, retail, that sort of thing. But to find that incidents are happening more than we realise in public areas and roads and highways gives us a bit more information to go at. And of course, what types of machines are having the incidents? Where is it? Originally, when we looked at this, before we added all the data to the existing data, it was typically 1B machines that was the big problem. But now that we've entered all this information, you can now see that 3B or mobile type booms account for 33% of all fatals, and very closely 1B machines are now at 32%. And as you can see, 3A mobile type vertical machines, 23%. So that gives us an information that 3B type machines, and if you take into account that the falls from platforms, we can see where the correlation of these incidents are actually happening. So from the 1st of January 2012 to December 31st, 2019, there were 3,310 worldwide reports entered into the database, and 2,615 of these reports were from the UK. And essentially, as Peter indicated earlier, and his journey to get worldwide mandating of incidents reported, prior to that, and I've been in this industry for 24 years, we really had no insight as to what incidents happen. Yes, we knew they would come to light through safety alerts and incidents. Often they were highlighted by main contractors, the media, various websites, and even powered access rental companies like ourselves. And if I'm going to be critical of this, often the downside of some of the incidents were they're often rebranded and used multiple times. And this caused confusion, certainly from a rental company's perspective and also a manufacturer's perspective, as to believe that perhaps there was multiple incidents on a type and make of mute. So that sends alarm bells to safety practitioners around the world. So as you can see, very important data to make sure that we are, if it is one incident, it is one incident. It's not multiple incidents. As you can see, there was 1,100 people injured in the UK, and unfortunately there were 11 fatalities. So these slides now show the outcome of the UK reported incidents, and these indicate the types of incidents which have happened. Now, the top three being near misses, damage to machine or property, and first aid. Now, near misses, you might think, what's the point of really reporting them? And there are various theories around the world in terms of accident triangles, that if we report them, we reduce, potential first aids and, unfortunately, fatals. Some will disagree with me on this, but I still believe that if we can count and find our near misses, we can get that closer to reducing any fatal incident. And we only have to stop one fatal incident, all of us, to have, or a serious incident, to have a real, a change in somebody's life. It shows there that the incidents are happening in yards, construction sites and workshops. Now, to be clear, a yard and a workshop are what's known as a rental base or rental yard in the UK. So whenever you see that term there, yard, it's essentially what that's meaning. From a rental perspective, from a company perspective, this essentially shows that over half of all the incidents happen on their premises. So from a UK perspective, that's quite a huge amount of information that, incidents are happening in your bases at all times of the day. And finally, the incident shows that there are incidents where there is no machines involved. And then essentially it's typically 3A and 3B type machines that are having the incidents, which if you take into account is a typical rental business as opposed to a specialist rental business. Lost time incidents, to just be clear, are incidents where one or more person was injured and as a result was unable to work for one or more day. And the top 5 lost time incidents were slipped, tripped and fell from the same level. Some of you might think that's pretty common sense, but the amount of slips, trips and falls in workshops or in yards, in terms of on the back of a vehicle, that's the same level. And then we looked at things like crushing, trapping and pinching, which was second. Third was unsafe situations. So, you could probably sort of say as an incident, it was from an unsafe situation, which could be a myriad of issues. 4 was collision and contact with an object or person. So perhaps maybe, wander leading or walking the mute into themselves or into a building. And last on that list there, number 5, which I'm going to cover, is manual handling. Always going to find manual handling, focus high in terms of safety issues. A lot of the kit that engineers and people are moving around, it's heavy, and clearly we're going to have some incidents there. Having the data enables IPAF really to drill down into the industries and incidents which are also happening. So it's probably no surprise here that construction comes out top. After all, they may be subject to higher usage, longer hours of working, perhaps multiple shift use, and the arduous conditions. Are they treated the same? Is equipment being used properly, etc.? They're all sorts of things. But you also see there are probably around about circa 90 lost time incidents where the category other was identified. Now these are incidents which isn't a specific industry. So perhaps the person who entered the data didn't select rental company or construction site, or maybe even it wasn't an option for them. Shopping centre, basement, or they're the kind of things. So somebody's took in their time to in other words say other. But ultimately that's an incident that's happened. Rental activities feature high in relation to lost time incidents, which, given the activities involved in loading, maintenance and preparation of machinery and equipment, the turnaround, I've got to get that machine ready for 5 o'clock, we can perhaps understand that. So these are things that are easy for us to have a look at, really useful for us to drill down into and get the information. Now, when the accident working group looked at the configuration of the machine, I remember sat in the meetings, we've got to identify what, was the machine lowered? Was the jib up? Was the machine elevated? Was the outriggers spread? These are all things that we, as an accident working group, we had to come up with, and we had to come up with the right information to ensure that, yourselves, when you're entering this information, it's easy for you to understand. So it identifies such, once we poured all this data into it, it identified such things like, was the machine being loaded or unloaded at the time? Was maintenance being performed? Naturally, was the machine in the elevated position? Was it lowered? We also know that drivers who load and unload mutes have a higher percentage of incidents as opposed to other occupations. It's tough work, it's mundane work. Often they're working alone in different types of weather conditions, remotely. from the depots. They're being hassled perhaps by the office and of course by customers. Where's my machine? And having to negotiate traffic, loads of RTAs and them sort of things. So it's not surprising to see them feature high. I mentioned earlier about walking the mute, and we can see that some of these incidents are there. And these factor high in most of the businesses that I've had dealings with and talks with. But I would actually say them numbers look low to me. So perhaps there are incidents which, maybe haven't been reported. Nobody's going to cause any problems. Let's report them. Let's find out what the problem is. There's if we can know about them, we can put plans in place to try and reduce these numbers. And unknown areas which you can see have the greatest percentage. For example, here on this slide and that graph is injury type and injury area. And again, this is due to the individual who inputted the data not entering the outcome of the incident at the time. So it is clear that an incident happened and that people were unfortunately injured, but unfortunately the nature of that injury wasn't confirmed. So we don't know where in the body it was. And this was essentially down to the previous free textability of the portal on the older portal. Now, I'm pleased to say that the new portal is changed, and going forward, the person entering the incident will now have to select an outcome. So a driver hurt their foot, a driver hurt their arm, an eye, a head injury. It's no surprising, unfortunately, to see bruising and impact, cuts and laceration, lower and upper limb, and head injuries featuring. This is the work that our great drivers and engineers do each day, maintaining, loading, unloading, securing and moving in and out of mutes, which have been loaded and loaded off the back of the trucks, banging the heads on scissor packs when they're in there. So these are things that are real key to us, and it's things that we can try and again reduce going forward and have campaigns in place. Okay, now this graph indicates who the injured person was working for at the time of the incident, and you can see rental companies feature high. But we already know that drivers and engineers do injure themselves, and from some of the operations I've given you earlier, loading, unloading, and maintenance. As Peter mentioned, it's not surprising because this is a condition of membership in the UK. So we, as part of a UK member, they've got to report their incidents. But again, I will say my belief is that there is quite a bit of underreporting here in the remaining categories. You can see their user. Contracted third parties, owner or occupant. So lots of underreporting there. And I think let's not be scared to share what's happening. Within the member report, there is also a breakdown of each category. So, for example, an operator or an occupant, an engineer or technician of a machine, or a delivery driver. So to make things easier for today's webinar, I've extracted the driver for you. And this gives you an in-depth view of what's available. So this gives us a type of incident that's occurred to them, giving an insight into what's happened at that time, what function they were carrying out at the time, what operation, or what they were doing, what was the outcome of that incident, what injury did they sustain to their body, and of course, where on the body that injury occur. So you can see percentage. Now, the more people, worldwide, the more people that add into this, that landscape will change. It's great information to drill down into. And, by entering your own incidents and your own accidents or your own near misses, this can change. And remember, these are available also for engineers or technicians or for operators or occupants in the platform too. Slips, trips and falls are always going to feature highly on most workplace incidents. And naturally, in some countries, when the temperature drops, this increases more. So with the new portal dashboard, we should be able to show the effects of this. And we're now approaching autumn. It feels like it in the UK, or will be feeling like in the UK in a few days' time. We'll see a change in these sort of things. Even though slips and trips and falls from the same level is an issue for our industry, it would appear to be on a downwards trend. Now, falls from height, not platform, has actually reduced in recent years, but this usually relates to falls from delivery vehicles when loading and unloading. So it can spike quite easily, and it's easy for areas easy for areas to increase without proper supervision. Perhaps quick reminders, a toolbox talk on this, or making sure their training courses are up to date and refreshed, etc. Which now brings me on to delivery driver by configuration. So we know as an industry that our drivers make up most of the incidents, and here it certainly highlights the incidents which occur during the loading and unloading phase. Remembering, of course, that this is UK data only, you now know what we're able to do with UK data, and even with your own businesses around the world, you know, the countries that we're talking today, what happens in them. Can you just imagine now the slide, if we were reporting on a worldwide accident, you know, everybody entering their data. This would give the accident work group much more of an insight into incidents which are happening globally. But one thing for certain, IPAF doesn't stand still. So armed with this anonymised loading and loading data, a working group was formed by the UK Training Committee to update the IPAF Load and Load course. And this updated course will be released shortly, benefiting all members around the world. Now, having seen some of the work, it's a giant step forward, and thanks must go to the working group and IPAF on this. It really is a really super course that's going to be released. So you can see there a bit of a downward trend on that, and that gives you a bit of insight. But again, load and load, it's still huge insight. Our industry then deals with you know, different shapes, different sizes, weights, types of equipment. It's heavy equipment. If people take shortcuts, don't use the equipment or follow procedures and good working and practice, they're going to get hurt. So evidently strains feature high from securing mutes on transporters, and these have major injuries to drivers when conducting this type of work. So I've just extracted there, you know, for example, the bruising and impact pain. You can see there on this particular one, it's on an upward trend. Okay. I picked out lower limbs here, and as you can see, the incidence that's happening by body part, you can see it's a falling trend, but the numbers are still relevant. The portal enables us to take any body part, and this can then be drilled down into what types of injuries are happening. So sprains and strains you can see there, and you can see you know, lower limb injuries. Clearly we can have upper limb, head injuries, torso, that sort of thing. Really great slide here in terms of what happens. And to give you just a bit of a key here, orange is what the machine configuration was at the time, grey is the injury type, and blue is the incident outcome. So you can see there for the operator and occupant, 40% of their incidents happen when they're in the elevated platform. 39% of them injuries are sustained from bruising or impact. So they're being thrown around the platform, or they, you know, using the machine not smoothly, all sorts of things. But 24% are from crushing, trapping, and pinching. From a technician and an engineer, you know, carrying out service, repairs, maintenance, 71% of people are hurt, and 34% of these suffer cuts, lacerations, or puncture injuries. 21% are hurt from using power tools. Now, those of you that have used power tools, I'm sure they can be far-ranging in severity. What happens there? So, you know, some probably serious incidents. As I said earlier, the delivery driver featured high earlier, and you've already seen some of their slides. But 71% are hurt from during the loading and loading operations. 39% are from bruising or impact, and 20% are slips, trips, or falls from the same level. So you can see where your focus, perhaps, of your business could be in reducing some of these, you know, these incidents that happen in your businesses. So to remind you, your data and anything that you enter onto the portal is 100% confidential. It is anonymised, and any names of businesses, manufacturers, people, etc. are removed. When I was working on the working group, literally all that information was not available to me. All we would see was the date, the incident, and what the outcome was, you know, and, you know, unfortunately, you know, whether a person survived or not. But you know, that aside, here we can see the results of your data in real life. Toolbox talks, which can be used to save lives. A timely reminder of an information or a reminder to an operator or a manager, something that they may have forgotten. From the slides I've shown you, hopefully, that, you know, some of that data screens today, hopefully you can see how important the data is. And having these available to IPAF helps strategically to shape the future of any training programs, campaigns, and guidance. Let's get people safe. Let's make sure they get home to their families. Or it could certainly be a campaign which is directed at a specific area in an effort to reduce an incident, a fatality in that country or that region or that sector. I, for one, would always encourage you and your businesses to report incidents. That way we can learn from these, plan better, and ensure training programs are up to date. It's the right thing to do. And folks, this is our opportunity to work together and learn from the reported incidents, not only in the UK, but globally. We can analyse and further improve and promote the safe use of powered access worldwide. Okay, I've come to an end there. I hope you found that useful. I will now hand you over to Richard Whiting, who is the IPAF UK Market General Manager. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brian. You've heard a little bit about the existing portal and Peter's given you the background. I'm really here only to introduce a short video about the new accident portal, which is available both desktop and mobile. And just to point out that it's not just for IPAF members, but it's for anybody that wants to report an accident or incident. We're launching the portal today in English, but other languages will be coming before the end of 2020. So you will see translations into Dutch, German, French, Italian, Portuguese and Spanish first, followed soon after by Chinese and Korean. Prior to launching today, Brian's already mentioned the accident working group have painstakingly gone through line by line anonymised accident data. We've migrated all of the records from the existing database from 2012 to 2019, and also we've identified all the existing users. So any user that has been active in the last 2 years will have already had an account created for them. And if you look out for an email following this webinar, you'll be able to follow the instructions to access the site and change your password to get access. The message from me really is quite simple. You can't manage what you don't measure. So the redesign of the new portal aims to make reporting easier, and it uses predetermined options to help you quickly add reports in a simple 5-step process. This is not just a new coat for the old database, it actually does different things. So reporting options now also include details of whether injured parties are trained. So that's whether they've got an IPAF PAL card or whether they've had other training or whether they're a complete novice. And it also includes time of day and weather and ground condition information for accidents and incidents that happen outside. Removing most of the free text fields in favour of multi-choice options means analysis will be more specific at a deeper level and most importantly quicker, and that's the key one for me. As well as the published worldwide accident reports that Brian talked about, the online member dashboard, Brian showed you a few sample graphs from there, that will provide a ready resource of detailed reports and improved insights for everybody. That will be available very soon via the members area of the IPAF website. For those of you that do input data, you will get additional reporting, and this is a plea from me for if you want more analysis on trends and incidents data, then contribute the data. The more data you put in, the more data you get out. Thank you to the working group for all the work they've done on this. Thank you to the sponsors again for enabling this. I'm really proud to launch this portal today. It is new, it is exciting. We are happy to hear feedback from the users when you get going. I can tell you that we're already working on enhancements for version 2, which will include multi-person accident reporting. So where Brian mentioned before, 15 people, so there were 15 reports where more than one person was killed. The reporting will be able to analyse the incident and accident outcome for every individual involved in that accident. And there will also be enhanced reporting. So before the Q&A session, here's just a short introduction video to the new portal. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Richard. Right, straight into the Q&A. Then we have a few questions that have come in on the Q&A. Please, if you still want to ask a question, please do so. So the first one I have here is how long has the new reporting system been in place? So that was sent by Anonymous at 12:21. At 12:21, it had been live for about 21 minutes. So it's gone live today in conjunction with this webinar. I've got one from Lorraine Shepherd from the National Association of Shop Fitters. Hi, Lorraine. Do you feel people still shy away from near-miss reporting? And yes is the answer to that. Some of our UK members don't just give us accident and incident information where we've seen injuries or first aid. We do get some near-miss information, but a lot of our probably smaller members maybe don't collate that information. But what I would encourage everybody to do to give us as much information as you can. The more information we can collect on near misses, the more accidents we can stop happening in the first place where there's actual harm to people. So I think that's a spot on observation. The next one, is the accident portal collecting data relevant to the RIDO report, gathering data re environmental aspects of the accident? Richard, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, quite happy to. The simple answer is yes. Environmental factors have been included on the new portal. I mentioned before time of day, ground conditions, weather conditions. So that will include wind, rain, snow, ice. Being able to drill down into the fact that we might have more slips in December because there's ice. It's probably common sense, but it'd be good to have the data to back that up. And in terms of enhanced reporting, IPAF is a member of the All-Party Parliamentary Group that looks into work at height and particularly fatalities at work at height. One of the recommendations from their Staying Alive report was enhanced reporting, and that is something that we're very keen on doing. It's the more data you have, the easier it is to provide the insights and guidance that you're looking for. One of the issues we have as a work at height sector, and one of the things highlighted by the All-Party Parliamentary Group, is RIDO data isn't enough and we need more data. So we're sharing what we're doing within IPAF with the HSC, with the guys that are collecting RIDO data, and with the other members of the All-Party Parliamentary Group. So absolutely, yes, it's vital.
On a similar subject, probably another one for you, Richard, some really good data from this analysis. The data collected are symptom-driven, what and how, but it's hard to see the root cause. Why? How is this data being used to ensure the correct action is taken to address the root cause? Do we get feedback from authorities such as the HSE on root cause data for more significant incidents to link into the portal?
It's a great question, and I think that the answer for me would be we'd love to be in that position. We do get feedback from authorities in the UK from HSE. But if you've looked at the HSE reporting on accidents, it doesn't go into an awful lot of detail, so it is difficult to get to the root cause. Similarly, in the US, we get reports from OSHA, but it tends to focus on the fatalities, and you only really get the root cause where there's been an investigation. Outside of fatalities and some major incidents, we don't really get an awful lot of information about root cause activity. But I think we need to, the best we can do at the moment is take the data we've got and work backwards. So if we know what the outcomes are, what are the things that we do, and how do we operate within business that lead us to getting those accidents? It's an old one, but if you keep asking why, ask why 5 times, you'll get back to some kind of root cause. It's not an exact science, but it's because we don't investigate all accidents. And as Brian mentioned earlier, we don't get all of the reporting that we should. So with greater data and more data becomes greater certainty of the output. So it's a brilliant question, and it's exactly where we would like to be, but we're not quite there yet.
I thought you were going to do a Spider-Man quote then, Richard. I would just add to that, the All-Party Parliamentary Group, which we're members of through the Access Industry Forum, we are lobbying government to pressure the HSE to allow us to help them with enhanced reporting as an industry, work at height industry, not just the powered access industry. So we are really pushing government on this issue. So let's hope we get some, a result there. One for you, Brian. Has a date been set for the release of the new Load Unload course yet?
I'm not certain that there was. I know I think they had a meeting yesterday, Peter, on this one, which I didn't attend, and that was essentially really to go through. But I think my understanding is it was due to be finalised and released at the end of this month, ready for going out. But I know Paul Roddis and Martin Wraith are busy with that at the moment.
If I could chip in there, after this meeting today, there is a training committee meeting, and I think that will be the final sign-off.
Yeah.
So it's imminent.
Yeah.
Got a question from Jack Baker, Skanska UK. Given the high number of load unload fatalities, is there any engagement with tier 1 and 2 contractors in the construction world to go further into the load unload issues? It will be the level of contractor culture, control and management that create the right environment.
I think this is one that we can probably dovetail in with Strategic Forum Plant Safety Group. There's a lot of really great people that sit on the Strategic Forum Plant Safety Group, and we're addressing here that loading and unloading is an issue for our industry. This isn't a square box that's been unloaded and all loaded. So I think this is a really great opportunity for us to to sort of speak to these tier 1, tier 2 contractors and get some help and make sure they've got the right provisions in place for loading and unloading.
Can I just add to that? The next Strategic Forum meeting is the 27th of October, and we would welcome more tier 1, tier 2 contractors to attend. If anybody wants to do that, please let me know. The other route that we have, I think, to tier 1 and tier 2 contractors is we are members of Build UK, and it's through Build UK that we push our messages. Obviously, if they're not getting to tier 1 and tier 2 contractors, then we need to work harder at that. But absolutely, Brian's right. Either through Build UK or the Strategic Forum, it is our route to contractors. But also, I would also say through our members as well. I historically work for a large rental company in the UK, as does Brian. And I'm sure that it's certainly been on the agenda with my old company, with contractors, ensuring that we've got there are spaces, safe spaces to load and unload on sites is a massive issue rather than out on the road, which is potentially very dangerous and the scene of quite a lot of incidents and accidents. So I think our members on our behalf have definitely engaged. But Richard's right, we maybe need to push our message harder with Build UK. But and also if there are any more contractors on this, viewing this webinar that want to get involved, please contact us and we'll put you in touch with the Strategic Forum and get you invites to forthcoming meetings.
What I would also say is there's some very good load and load guidance that was produced by the working group quite a few years ago, and that has cradle to grave type approach from the rental company to the contractor to the user and their responsibilities. So that's always really worthwhile reviewing that and reading that guidance.
We've got a question from Danny from Slovenia. Do state institutions also help you obtain data? Richard? Help is probably the wrong word. We get help from the equivalent of health and safety executive companies in other countries, not necessarily institutions. A lot of the incidents, particularly around fatalities and major incidents, are recorded by IPAF members of staff in the different regions, trawling websites, construction news articles and that kind of thing. Vertical, as an example, report fatalities when they hear of them, and we use that information to add that data to our portal. We would love to work with more institutions. If there are other institutions that collect the data and we can use that data to add as accidents, whether it's near miss, fatalities, majors, then absolutely we would. But we don't have many that put their arm out to hand this data to us. We have to go searching for it. Thanks, Richard. I can see no more questions that haven't been answered. There's a little bit of duplication there, so if you want to move across to the summary slide, please, Chris. Thank you very much for your input, guys, there and your questions. So just to wrap up, I would just like to thank Brian and Richard. Richard's put a hell of a lot of hard work into getting the portal ready for today, trawled a lot of thousands and thousands of lines of data to ensure that we could upload all of the right information, and we finally got there. So thanks, Richard, and thank you, Brian, for your insightful presentation on some of the stuff that we're analysing and looking into and helping to improve safety within the industry. I'd like to thank our sponsors again. Thank you very much, guys, to Skyjack, Inoa, MCS, Jesh Lift, and Green Power Design Astri Company Limited. Sorry, did I leave MCS out then? And MCS as well, if I didn't say that. We want to, from today we're launching the portal. It's really important for us. We've collected some fantastic data. We've launched some fantastic initiatives on the back of that data, but we do need more data, more near-miss data, more accident and incident data. What we would ask you to do is to pledge to report all accidents and near misses. And we're going to be doing a bit of a social media campaign with this graphic on LinkedIn, Facebook. We're going to put it on our website. What I would ask you to do is to share it, to like it, to comment, to pledge your support. As I said earlier, if you are part of a regional or IPAF country council, please put it on the agenda at your next meeting and talk about the potential of mandating it in your country or region. The more data we can collect, the more people we can help and save lives. Which for me is the be all and end all of this. If you're an IPAF member, if you're already safety conscious, if you want to help others, please contribute to this fantastic initiative. Thank you very much for your time.